Celebrations over a blocked pipe, but Native Americans fear their victory could be trumped by the new Commander-in-Chief. And we'll hear from the Imam and the priest who became viral stars for delivering a message of tolerance. I'm Martin Stamford. This is Insight. Welcome to Insight. Hundreds of protesters are still camping in freezing conditions in the American state of North Dakota, despite a victory in their battle to block a new oil pipeline. The demonstrators are led by Native Americans and environmental activists who say the project risks contaminating water supplies and damaging sacred tribal sites. While they've celebrated a decision to deny a permit to continue the project, they fear that when Donald Trump takes over in the White House, that decision could be overturned. Insight's Ty Genwright reports.
Protesters at the Standing Rock Reservation were preparing for the cold North Dakota winter. The looming freeze was part of the reason the US Army had threatened to begin prosecuting demonstrators for trespassing on its land. But instead, it gave them the gift they'd been waiting for.
This is the best news that I've heard forever. The best news for Native people, Native country, the whole United States, all the people, because water is so precious.
Throughout the past 4 months, having tried to throw legal and political obstacles in the way of the pipeline, the Sioux tribe and its allies also engaged in a campaign of civil disobedience, clashing at times with police.
This is not okay.
They don't call themselves protesters, preferring the term water protectors, because clean water is not just a necessity for Native Americans, for them it's sacred.
This is the Cannonball River. And this flows into the Missouri River, which is just over there. Pipes always break. It will break. And within about 10 minutes, it'll be to our freshwater intake for the tribe.
It was the army that made the decision to block the pipeline, but in reality, it was a parting gift by President Obama. But they know here, it's one that his successor could take away. The pipeline is almost complete, only the contentious section remains unfinished. The company behind it said that rerouting was not an option.
There may be some input that influences what we do, but as far as the route, that's not going to change.
And it's not happy with the latest development.
The White House's directive is just the latest in a series of overt and transparent political actions by the administration which has abandoned the rule of law in favour of currying favour with a narrow and extreme political constituency.
It's not the first time President Obama has blocked an oil pipeline. Last year, he put a stop to Keystone XL, an extension to an existing pipeline that would have carried oil from Canada to the Gulf of Mexico.
The pipeline would not make a meaningful long-term contribution to our economy.
Come January, he won't be able to stand in the way anymore. Donald Trump will be in charge, and his transition team has said he supports the Dakota pipeline, but the Sioux tribe is hoping to convince him otherwise.
He should really sit down with us and try to learn the issue. It's not just about money, it's about people's lives, and so I'm open and I'm welcoming a discussion with the president.
Slightly awkward, though, is the fact that the president-elect has owned shares in 2 of the companies involved, and one of them donated to his campaign. Trump Tower says his support has nothing to do with his personal investments and everything to do with promoting policies that benefit all Americans.
Our water is sacred.
There are thousands of kilometers between Standing Rock and the White House, but the political distance between them is likely to get much bigger when President Trump takes office. They've won a battle here, but they know they haven't won the war. Ty Genwright, reporting for Insight.
Well, to discuss that further, I'm joined by Dr. Konstantinos Zavitsas, who's a research associate from the Department of Civil and Environmental Engineering at Imperial College in London. And also joining us from Boston, Massachusetts, is Jesse Coleman. He's a researcher and writer for Greenpeace USA, and he follows the fracking, the oil and gas industries, and corporate power in politics. Jesse Coleman, do you accept that the oil industry needs this line? They need to get that volume of oil from A to B?
Absolutely not. The only reason that this line is being built is to increase the profits of these oil companies. Right now, oil in North Dakota is at a lower price than it is in other parts of the country, but it's still flowing out of the state. Oil is still moving from the wells to the export facilities and refineries that these companies want to get it to. So it's not necessary at all.
Konstantinos, it's a vital part of America's energy needs to have an efficient oil system. Is this tiny cog in the overall picture really that important?
It is to a certain extent important. The US is a large importer country. They are consuming 1 out of every 4 barrels of oil produced. And this inflow of oil comes from various sources around the world. And the problem with that is that these sources tend to be unreliable, and there are several reasons that these can get disrupted. Such reasons include stakeholders, big stakeholders like OPEC or other countries that can disrupt parts of the network, or even accidental damage or weather effects that again can have impacts and disrupt the inflow supply. So having an indigenous source and being able to securely and reliably provide it to your users, that has some importance. So having options to a certain extent has some value.
Jesse Coleman, this story puts together, doesn't it, concerns about environmental matters such as polluting a water supply, but also the very delicate matter of indigenous populations and their rights. Which is the more important issue, do you think, in this case?
Well, the most important issue right here is that this pipeline is being built without the consent of the Standing Rock Sioux, who's have the right to this land. They have said that they do not want this pipeline, and it's being built anyway, and that's really unconscionable, and that is absolutely the single most important piece of this situation.
The current president has said, as he did with the Keystone, that there should be some pause in this. Do you think that's likely to get reversed once Donald Trump takes the oath?
I don't think anybody really knows what's going to happen once Donald Trump becomes president, but that's certainly a possibility. I will say, if you look back at what has happened at Standing Rock over the last couple months, every time that police force was increased, every time that the company made more threats, more people came. So even if there is a situation where President Donald Trump would approve this pipeline, I think that there will still be a tremendous amount of resistance. The other side to this is that there's going to be a 6 to 9 month review period for the environmental impact statement, and we don't know what's going to come out of that either. So there's still a lot of questions, I think. Do
you have any confidence in that process? I mean, will the conclusions be reached be rigged, or will they be independent and valuable?
Well, there are a lot of people that will be holding this process accountable in every manner that we can. So I do hope for the best in this process. I will say that it's a possibility that because of the way the system has been created, that the Army Corps decides that this river crossing would hurt the least amount of people who have the least amount of power, again, which is what they decided the first time. So it could definitely be that we come to the same situation again in 6 to 9 months, but I still remain optimistic.
Konstantinos Zavitsas, America, or certain parts of America, like California, is boasting about how green they're going. You know, they've put up solar panels everywhere, they've got wind farms going, but it's nothing like enough progress, is it, if it really is going to replace a significant amount of oil consumption?
No, I don't think the rate at which, and there is effort, certainly, but the rate at which this is happening is slow, and it's not sufficiently quick to replace it, to replace oil needs or change them significantly in the short term.
So what do they do for energy needs in the medium to long term?
I think there is a phase that both kind of sources will play a role, but people have to still rely on oil and extract and use oil until eventually...
America and oil are locked together for what, the foreseeable future?
Yeah, I think for the foreseeable future, that's...
And therefore, as we talked about, the economies of this mean that, or the economics of this mean that they're terribly vulnerable to variations in the oil price globally.
Absolutely, and as I said, if there is no reliable supply, then that gets into the price as well, and there is a link between the two. So if there is no reliable supply, and if they cannot be certain that we'll be able to access the quantity they need, then that will influence price and the economy.
Jesse Coleman, is there an alternative? If more money was invested in alternative energies, could America make a step towards self-sufficiency?
Absolutely. There are many studies that say that we actually do not need to pump this oil out of North Dakota, and we should be moving directly to a future that does not rely on fossil fuels. This pipeline costs more than $1 billion. Think about what we could do if we reinvested that capital into a renewable future that we want, you know, to energy sources that we actually want to be relying on in 30, 40 years. That's the big problem that I have with this, is that this pipeline is supposed to last for 50 or 60 years. Scientists say that we can't handle that amount of carbon in the atmosphere, and engineers say that we don't actually need that energy 50 years into the future. So it doesn't make sense to me.
What renewables are you putting your confidence in?
Well, I think solar and rooftop solar have a tremendous potential in the United States. You know, the wind industry has really taken off here in the U.S. as well. You know, we need investment in grid infrastructure that is not pipelines. You know, we need to be able to transport our electricity and our electrons from these giant wind farms that we're building to the cities and the manufacturing centers that need them.
But that's the problem at the moment, isn't it? There is not, ironically, because America is such a big place, getting energy from where it can be produced to where it is consumed is a challenge.
Absolutely, it's a challenge, and that's why we need investment like Dakota Access. We need the money that Dakota Access takes to build. We need to plug that into something that will actually help us with climate change, make our future, you know, like bright and a livable one, and not the same old oil industry ruled economy that has, you know, gotten us into the situation that we're in now.
There are some signs, Konstantinos, are there not, that the oil industry giants are looking for their own future as well. And while, as you say, there are decades, if not lifetimes, of oil exploration still to be done, they're also looking beyond that.
Yep. Yeah, the oil companies do look at alternatives, but again, this is not in the foreseeable future, so it will take time, I think, until all the other sources kick in into a sufficient level that they can satisfy all the energy demand that exists in the country still.
Okay, thank you, and thank you to Jesse Coleman as well in Boston. This is Insight. Coming up, the unlikely stars of a Christmas commercial that's gone viral.